Almost no one realizes the depth of what Jesus revealed in one simple verse, a verse that carries the key to being ready for the moment believers have anticipated for generations. It wasn't buried in hidden prophecies, it wasn't encrypted in ancient codes, and it didn't require years of study to uncover. It was spoken plainly, directly, and intentionally. Yet because it was simple, most people overlooked it. While the world debates signs, dates, and timelines, Jesus gave a spiritual key that could unlock the very readiness his followers would need. This key wasn't about knowing what would happen, but about being positioned when it does. It's found in Luke 21:36, where Jesus says, "Watch therefore and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man." That verse is not poetic filler or a vague encouragement. It's a divine strategy. The phrase "watch therefore" isn't passive observation. It's an alert mindset, a spiritual awareness that doesn't fade with comfort or routine. Watching means keeping your spiritual senses sharp, discerning truth from noise, and staying awake in a world where most are lulled into distraction. Then Jesus adds pray always, not as a ritual, but as a rhythm of life. Prayer isn't a backup plan, it's the communication line that keeps your spirit alive and connected to the heartbeat of heaven. When Jesus said always, he meant consistency, not crisis-driven devotion or emotional bursts of faith, but a steady awareness that keeps your heart in tune with God's will. Together, watching and praying form the foundation of spiritual readiness. They are the access code to divine alignment, the difference between knowing about the times and being prepared for them. The reason Jesus gave this verse right after describing end-time chaos is deeply intentional. He spoke of signs in the heavens, fear among nations, and hearts weighed down with anxiety. And then he shifted the focus. Instead of urging his followers to obsess over those signs, he directed them to their hearts. "Be careful," he warned, "that your heart isn't weighed down with indulgence, drunkenness, and the cares of life." That's the real battlefield. Many today are looking up, but Jesus was pointing within. The biggest threat to readiness isn't ignorance of prophecy, it's spiritual dullness. The end-time danger isn't just persecution or deception, but distraction, the slow numbing of the soul until sensitivity fades. That's why this verse is the true rapture key. It's not about predicting, it's about preparing. Not about timing the event, but transforming the heart. In practical terms, Luke 21:36 becomes a spiritual operating manual. Watch means awareness. Pray means connection. Together they shape worthiness, not in the sense of perfection, but alignment. To be counted worthy isn't to earn salvation, but to be positioned rightly, to stand firm when others collapse under pressure. Jesus never said this readiness would come from studying signs or mastering theology. He said it would come from a life rooted in prayer and watchfulness. It's a command, not a suggestion. The condition comes before the deliverance, and the deliverance before the approval. Many people chase knowledge as though it guarantees safety, but Jesus pointed to posture, the posture of a heart that stays awake. If you read Luke 21 closely, you'll notice Jesus gave this key in the middle of prophetic tension. The disciples wanted details about the end. He gave them discipline for the heart. He was saying, don't just look for the signs. Become someone who won't be shaken when they come. That's what watch and pray means. It's a lifestyle, not an event. Watching isn't scrolling through news about wars or earthquakes. It's watching your heart, your habits, your words, your faith. Praying always isn't reciting phrases. It's walking in communion, having a continual dialogue with God that aligns your reactions, your emotions, your direction. When you live like that, you're no longer reacting to chaos. You're standing in peace while chaos swirls around you. The phrase "at all times" in Luke 21:36 carries tremendous weight. It shifts the verse from theory to rhythm. It means the connection doesn't break between Sundays. It's not about moments of devotion but a continual awareness. It's like keeping a radar on, even when the skies seem clear. Watching and praying at all times means you remain sensitive, not paranoid, but spiritually sharp. The storms of life don't catch you off guard because your heart has learned to listen. Jesus was preparing his followers for a generation like ours, one overloaded with information but starved for intimacy. He knew many would confuse being informed with being prepared. That's why this verse calls for constant readiness. Watching and praying at all times keeps the oil of your spirit full, the same oil symbolized in the parable of the 10 virgins. Only those who maintained their flame entered in when the moment came. The others knew the story, but lacked the substance. This verse is the dividing line between those who study prophecy and those who live it. And living it means practicing habits that keep your spirit sharp. One simple way is through daily alignment, taking intentional pauses to reconnect. 3 times a day, stop and realign your focus. In the morning, surrender the day. Lord, help me see through your eyes. At midday, reflect, where has my heart drifted? And at night, release the weight. What do I need to lay down before rest? These small rhythms keep the spiritual flame alive. Then there's fasting, not always from food, but from noise, the constant flood of information that drowns the still voice of God. Silence isn't empty, it's space where discernment grows. By stepping back from the digital storm, you make room for divine whispers. Reading the Word, praying sincerely, and obeying immediately. These are the performance markers of spiritual readiness. They aren't rules, but responses. The Word renews the mind. Prayer fuels the heart. Obedience activates the will. When these align, your entire being becomes watchful. You're not just waiting for escape, you're walking in purpose. And when Jesus said that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things, he wasn't speaking of cowardice or avoidance. Escape means divine covering, the kind that shields you not by removing you from the world, but by strengthening you within it. To stand before the Son of Man is not survival, it's honor. It's the posture of those who remained faithful, awake, and aligned. Many fall into the trap of thinking spiritual readiness is about avoiding evil, but often it's about avoiding distraction. Some are drunk, not with alcohol, but with information, consuming endless prophecy videos and debates while their prayer life dries up. Others are consumed by anxiety, glued to the latest global crisis, forgetting to lift their eyes to the Prince of Peace. And some are lost in religious busyness, doing ministry, creating content, or debating theology, yet neglecting stillness before God. These are the modern versions of the weights Jesus warned about: indulgence, drunkenness, and life's anxieties. They don't always look sinful, but they dull the spirit. Jesus warned that the day would come like a trap, not because people weren't informed, but because they weren't watching within. The evidence that this verse has taken root in your life isn't visible to the world, it's internal. You'll sense a peace that doesn't depend on headlines. You'll find obedience becoming quicker, almost natural. Your responses will start aligning with God's nudges instead of emotions. You'll crave stillness more than stimulation. Holiness will begin to feel more satisfying than distraction. You will stop measuring your readiness by how much you know and start measuring it by how much you align. That's the real transformation. The key Jesus gave isn't for scholars or experts. It's for disciples who live alert, humble, and connected. Watch and pray always. That's not a slogan. It's a survival code for the soul.